The two-party system bothers me because there's no compromise.
Because it sorts people into two different ideologies when everybody's a bunch of different ideas.
Because it limits us to only two options.
Because no one can agree on it.
It bothers me because it takes a very not black and white issue and forces it to be black and white.
It forces voters and politicians to be either polarized to the extreme left or the extreme right, and there's no real room for middle ground and compromise.
I am an independent voter because I don't feel that either of the parties represent me well.
I would register as an independent voter because I believe that the two-party system is so polarized that there's no middle ground.
Don't wanna be an American idiot. Don't want a nation undone.
While most people view American politics as red and blue, Democrats and Republicans, the reality is that the majority of Americans fall somewhere in the middle. However, in order to get elected, candidates must subscribe to a polarized party view.
In this clip, President Obama and Senator Romney argue over what they believe to be fact. If politicians can't even agree on what is fact, how can we expect them to solve our nation's problems?
Public lands. So if you want to drill on public lands, you use it or you lose it.
Okay, now
and so what we did was take away those leases, and we are now reletting them so that we can actually make a profit.
And production on government lands is down.
No, it isn't.
Production on government land of oil is down 14%. And production on
you're
gas
saying
is down 9%.
It's just not true.
It's absolutely true.
Is this just an illusion that I made inside my head to get me?
And if you want to talk about real meaningful healthcare reform, it's important to talk about the most critical aspect of true meaningful healthcare reform, standing up for patients. Patient safety. Who will speak for the patients? Who will speak for the patients?
The gentleman will suspend. The House will be in order. We will just wait until all members are willing to respect the House.
Clearly, Democrat and Republican politicians have trouble agreeing with each other.
My head to get me by. 20 years in debt, 20 years in the government.
There has always been a problem with party politics in American government, but recently it's gotten so extreme. Clearly, little productive compromise is taking place.
And I feel you close like you wanted.
For example, several prominent Republicans recently signed a legal brief arguing that gays have the constitutional right to marry. Ironically named New York Times writer Cheryl Gay Stolberg wrote, "But the presence of so many well-known former officials, including Christine Todd Whitman, former governor of New Jersey, and William Weld and Jane Swift, both former governors of Massachusetts, suggests that once Republicans are out of public life, they feel freer to speak out against the party's official platform, which calls for amending the Constitution to define marriage as the union of one man and one woman."
Mickey Edwards, former Republican congressman from Oklahoma, stated that just the act of establishing an open primary would break the partisan and ideological chokehold on the general election ballot and create a much truer system of democratic self-government. As a result, members of Congress would have greater freedom to base their legislative decisions on their constituents' concerns and on their own independent evaluations of a proposal's merits. They would be our representatives, not representatives of their political clubs.
Right now, over 40% of Americans are independent, a number that's constantly rising. Allowing these independents to have a say in open primaries would open the door to other, less extreme candidates and smaller political parties. This gives minor parties a better chance of getting elected and tips the balance back to smaller groups, away from the big political parties. Meanwhile, Democrats and Republicans are even working to close primaries. This clip exemplifies the mentality that public officials have regarding the country's primary election system.
Lewis is only partly kidding about a fight. He wants to overturn the state's closed primary system, a system that excludes tens of thousands of independent voters from primaries. And he knows he's about to hit a nerve.
What you're saying is, I don't like the way America runs its political system. Well, if you don't like it, move to another country.
17 states still prevent independents from voting in presidential primaries, and many more in state and local primaries. Sign this petition to President Obama to get all 50 states to have open primaries. Encourage better civic education that emphasizes independent beliefs rather than simply subscribing to polarized views. This may help people to make more informed decisions, leading to better deliberators since they understand the issues better. Hopefully, future politicians will be less party-focused.
Don't be afraid to vote independent.